Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order. We'll start off with our land acknowledgement. We'd like to begin by acknowledging the land on which we gather today is the land traditionally used by the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and neutral people. We acknowledge the enduring presence and deep traditional knowledge and philosophies of the Indigenous peoples with whom we share this land today. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Seeing none. We have delegations this evening. I'll need a motion that the Council of the Township of Wellesley accept Laura Carlton, Larry Massero, I hope got that right, and Dieter Kays' delegations. Moved by Councillor Hergus, seconded by Councillor Brick. All in favor, and that's carried. So we'll start with Laura Carlton. It's all right. Yep.
Okay.
Is the mic on?
Sounds good. Okay. I feel like, so I did submit for the delegation the letter I originally sent to Councillor Brick, but I just wanted to pass out the questions that I've since added, if that's okay, just so everybody has them as we go along. Printed off 10, I think that's what was needed. Okay.
Yeah.
Good to go?
Yes, good to go.
Okay. So, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to speak on behalf of the homeowners and residents impacted by the no parking bylaw amendment on the north side of Queensbush Road that happened suddenly as of the October 28th meeting of last year. Much of this will be repetitive based on the letter I have submitted on behalf of the delegation, but please bear with me as I review our questions and concerns. I'm sorry I am a bit out of breath from running in here from work. So, to start things off, the no parking decision came as quite a shock to us all. Despite there being no requirement to notify homeowners or the greater community of changes like these, those directly impacted would have been benefited greatly from a warning about a change that inconveniences our daily lives. A simple note in advance of the change in our mailboxes could have gone a long way. Requirement or not, the lack of common courtesy shown by the Township of Wellesley remains disheartening, especially since our concerns were ignored or not taken seriously for months, winter or not. Most of us stumbled upon the no parking sign by chance, making it almost impossible to comply with a bylaw that you don't know suddenly pertains to you and your property, especially for folks like my family who have lived on the block for over 30 years. Sorry, I'm just going to take a pause and leave. Out of breath. So, based on the agenda from October 28th, 2025, the decision to make this change was arbitrary at best. Yes, it is cited as benefiting sightlines, but no evidence was gathered or submitted to justify this point within the minutes or in email correspondence with Councillor Derek Brick since. We understand that council can make these decisions, but having some justification besides generalized sightlines should be the bare minimum expectation for impacted residents like ourselves to expect from the council. So why was the, in quotes, because this was the determination, the west side of the driveway at 1149 Queensbush Road specifically selected to start the no parking zone? What is the justification for its size? Both regional and provincial legislation outline no parking within 9 meters of an intersection without control lights. So why was the decision made to extend this to approximately 70 meters? Additionally, the no parking sign installed on the boulevard next door to us, which is 1147 Queensbush Road, is misleading as it was placed in the center of the boulevard, opposed to at the edge near the neighboring driveway where the no parking zone actually begins. So people don't even know if they can park in that half boulevard. If the intersection sightlines were the concern based on multiple complaints shared with council, did council review the intersection? Were other alternatives discussed? And what led to the no parking decision specifically? The sightlines being listed as the reason is also tremendously confusing for us, since I'm actually not sure if you see, I've never seen his face. Chris Cook, the Director of Public Works, directly admitted to at least 3 of us that this came together as a result of regular complaints by one of our neighbors who are demanding additional space on the street to make navigating getting their trailer in and out of their driveway easier. Because of this, it begs the question of whether the no parking zone size was determined to address the stated intersection sightlines or to appease those individualized needs. We continue to believe this, since no proper justification has been provided otherwise. Even after months of questioning, because this started back in November, it sadly feels that with such dishonesty, the township acted in bad faith with this decision. As such, we would be curious to see a comparison of road-related complaints made anonymous, of course, even though anonymity has already been violated by the township, from before and after the 2023 road work, especially pertaining to the cited intersection sightlines and individualized complaints received. Based on the continued lack of transparency, research, or evidence regarding the no parking zone decision size, we want to see the justification for it. Was there a survey? Did any of you even attempt to go to the intersection and turn? What could you see? What couldn't you, depending on where cars were parked? And what would the difference in visibility have been if the no parking was made just to the first or second driveway opposed to the third where we are, which again is 70 meters from that corner? Overall, the roadwork of 2023, at least for our block, was a disaster. And this is just another continuation of the fallout from that poor planning and management. Our boulevards are all a disaster. We still have a broken water pipe under our property, but that's not what we're here for. I'm just saying the roadwork lives on, sadly, for our block. We, the homeowners and residents, should not have to continue to suffer with these mistakes long lasting. We all know that the road was wider before the construction took place, regardless of the township's firm stance that the plans show the same road width. In a conversation I had with Chris Cook earlier when this was happening, as well as within the October 28th agenda, it alleges that the road was never paved wider on the north side. It was just packed down dirt from use over time and people parking onto their boulevards. But all of our personal experiences, photographs, and even if you go onto Google Maps Street View and look through the history, it's always been paved. It was never just packed down. We know that. We think that what's actually causing the issue at the intersection, if that even exists, is not the issue with parking. It's just the narrowed street. But regardless, even if the plans did show the same width, the township was aware that the road was, or at least felt larger if they thought people were going into the boulevards. So why were no allowances made to reflect this in the planning? Why not honor what we were used to as a community or add in paved aprons as was done on the blocks surrounding us? The best solution for all homeowners and residences impacted on Queensbush Road, as well as presumably other Wellesley residents, would be to add to the 2020, now 2027 budget to pave these aprons on the north side of Queensbush Road between Captain Street and Molesworth Street, where possible, or even by homeowner choice, if that's an option. This would enable residents, their guests, and others to continue parking on the north side of the street, would encourage slower moving two-way traffic on the road as it previously did, all while providing safer intersection sightlines and specific homeowners with more space to navigate parking trailers in their driveway, like our neighbor's leisure trailer. Ultimately, we request that the no parking sign be removed, as the township stands behind one reason, yet we were directly told another by a different employee. We want decisions like these to be based on more than just complaints, especially since complaints tend to mask inconvenience. I know from following the Facebook Wellesley groups, people were frustrated having to wait behind parked cars. So I wonder if turning at that intersection was actually a safety concern or a convenient excuse to get rid of the parked cars. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh, and then with that, because in emailing back and forth with Derek Brick, we were delayed just with the winter and that parking bylaw. But then that got me thinking out of curiosity if there were complaints about the intersection sightlines during the winter, since the snowbanks we had this winter far exceeded what the parked cars would cause. So if none of those came in, kind of speaks for itself because people do adjust their driving in the winter. So just to confirm any due diligence, would the township be able to conduct a survey on intersection sightlines to justify the location of the parking bylaw or even confirm that it's needed? And then if so, what would that cost be? Because I know when I was originally speaking with Chris, it was decided, I guess, with council that that wasn't completed just because it is a cost to taxpayers. So lastly, we wish for accountability from the township in explaining why and how those decisions were made, and for the honest answer to be made public, as we were told two different things. We were ignored for months, told different answers, and wish for this to be resolved or at the very least be taken seriously. So I thank you for listening, especially with my being so out of breath. And then I did pass out a list of questions. I don't know if we have time to go through all of those, but it's just kind of a summary of questions that I included as I spoke through that.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to bring your concerns. Questions from council? Yes, Councilor Brick.
Thanks, Laura, for coming in tonight and bringing this. So there's a lot of questions on here.
Yes.
So I don't, I'll say I don't think we're going to get into them tonight. However, we can talk with staff about the questions and work on a path forward if that's
Yep.
okay with you. In terms of, I won't maybe speak for staff, but there's a bylaw in place for the parking. To remove that bylaw, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, we would have to go through a couple meeting, like another meeting. So it's not something we can do immediately today. And maybe I'll let Chris to speak to that after, but I just want to recognize that a decision today to take down the signs can't be made as far as I know. But these questions and that we can work with staff on and work on a path forward. So I just wanted to address that and maybe allow Chris to elaborate on that if you could.
Thanks, Councilor Burke. So we could look at removing that bylaw amendment to, or amending the amendment to remove that no parking zone. I wouldn't recommend it. We first introduced it. We told residents who had called in with concerns at the time that we were going to look at it after approximately a year. I know I had spoken with you about that. I would recommend maintaining that position, looking at it after a year. The option to install a parking strip or kill strip, however you want to describe it, is something that we're looking at. And if we were to go that direction, it would be presented as in the 2027 capital budget. And that's certainly an option that we're looking at. I'm happy to have offline discussions and go through the questions as you've stated.
And maybe just a quick expansion on that. We are talking about our transportation master plan today. So there is some crossover, I would say, between this discussion and our whole master plan across the township. So I'm not saying you have to stay for the whole meeting, but it might be of interest just because there's going to be there are key points within that document that might be a part of this discussion and kind of our streets across the city or the town. So.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Okay. Well, thank you very much for presenting, and I guess we'll be in touch.
Yes, absolutely. Please.
Okay, Larry Massero, I hope I have that correct. And Dieter is.
I'm gonna go first and then.
Okay, you may go first, Dieter. Okay.
Thank you.
Mayor Nowak, members of council, thank you very much for the opportunity to address you here this evening. For the record, I guess I should need to say that my name is Dieter Kays. As you are aware, my wife and I have submitted a plan that proposes the creation of land from our farm to accommodate 7 lots to be incorporated into Bamberg. While we have included what we believe to be a satisfactory justification, staff at this point are recommending that the inclusion of these lots is not justified. And rather than putting council in a position where they are being asked to override a staff position for a relatively large expansion of Bamberg, we are asking the council approve an amended submission for 3 lots of approximately 3/4 of an acre in size. We recognize that that's not going to happen tonight, but we appreciate the opportunity to put this before council for their discussion at some point that is appropriate. As we ask you to give consideration to this request, we are asking you to balance our current planning principles, which are important, but also open to some interpretation, and the personal needs of families as they transition through different life stages. And I'd like to say at this point that I've really appreciated Tim's time that he has given to Larry and myself. We've been discussing this development, I think, for about 2.5 years. And Tim has always been there to answer any questions and to have whatever discussions we want. So we have really appreciated that. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about our personal situation and why these lots are important to us. Roz and I have lived in our township since 1978 and on our farm since 1986. Like many people in this community, we have contributed to its life in various ways. Roz taught at Wellesley Public School for some 17 years, served on many community committees and projects over the years. I coached ringette for some 10 years, participated in various community projects, and had the privilege of serving on council for a couple of terms. When I was young, I moved around a lot and didn't have deep roots. And certainly Wellesley has been a real privilege and a real gift to myself and to our family as we consider it very much our home. Our kids grew up here. One of them continues to live in Wellesley, and another is at a stage where she and her husband want to move out of the city to a more rural setting. Our farm has become the center for family gatherings, for our children and grandchildren, whether those are celebrations, a place to run their dogs, clearing brush, or cutting down trees. As an aside, we're probably one of the few families that has 4 chainsaws, and they all are owned by different people and live in different places, but they work on a farm. So it's been a very special place. While we grow crops, the majority of the 64 acres is not prime agricultural land, but it has been and continues to be a place where we share the quality of life that Wellesley Township offers. At this stage in life, Roz and I are at a point where we would like to downsize, but still live close enough to the farm to enjoy the amenities without the upkeep. Our one daughter and son-in-law who currently live in Wellesley would like to own the farm and would like to facilitate that, and we would like to facilitate that and live in a suitable house that allows us to continue to be independent, but close enough to continue to enjoy the amenities of the farm. In conclusion, we believe that the request that we are making is modest. An expansion of 3 lots along Moser Young Road integrated into the settlement area would allow us to meet our personal needs and still comply, we believe, with the majority of the relevant good planning principles. It would also allow the next generation in our family to remain in the community in which they have lived and enjoy the quality of life which it provides. We would therefore ask Township at the appropriate time to give consideration to this request. Thank you. I'd like to now ask Larry to make a few comments about the planning.
Good evening, Mayor Nowak, members of council. My name is Larry Mascio. I'm a professional planner, and I'm here tonight to support the revised minor settlement area expansion for 4161 Weimar Lane in Bamberg. Our full justification is set out in the revised planning justification report that has previously been circulated to you. We believe we meet the majority of the criteria for a minor settlement area expansion of 3 lots. This evening, I want to focus on one key issue, and that's balance. As the township moves forward with the official plan, it is important that we plan for growth in a way that reflects the full community structure of Wellesley Township, not just the village of Wellesley. Bamberg, like the township's other smaller settlements, is not intended to accommodate major growth, but it does play an important role as a place where families can live, grow, and remain connected across generations. The revised proposal before you is very modest in scale, just 3 new lots. It is not about expansion in a broad or speculative sense. It is about allowing measured incremental growth that supports generational retention so families can stay in their community. It supports housing choice in a township where options are limited, and it supports the continued viability of smaller settlement areas. If virtually all future growth is directed exclusively to the village of Wellesley, we risk gradually hauling out the smaller communities like Bamberg. This proposal represents a carefully considered and constrained adjustment to the settlement boundary. It avoids prime agricultural land. It aligns with infrastructure realities, and it avoids setting any precedent for broader expansion. Most importantly, it reflects what good planning in rural municipalities often requires: small, deliberate choices that support long-term community stability. So we respectfully ask Council to support the revised proposal as part of a balanced and inclusive approach to growth across Wellesley Township. And we're asking that Council tonight direct staff to include the revised proposal in the upcoming formal public meeting for the official plan review, so that it can be reconsidered in context of the broader objectives of the township. And with that, I thank you for your time, and both Dieter and I are available if there are any questions you might have.
Okay, questions? Council? No catch, Council Brick.
I said one, I was curious, how many lots have been severed off this farm to date? Do you know by chance, Dieter?
Sorry,
How many lots have been severed off the farm to date?
since 1986, I think about 10.
10. Cool, thanks.
Okay, any other questions? So we won't obviously make a decision tonight. We'll take it, staff will take this back and come to council with their recommendations. We do have another public meeting. What's the date of the public meeting?
Thank you, Mayor Nowak. We have two statutory public engagement events. One is, excuse me, one is the statutory public open house, which is tomorrow night at 6:30 at the Crosshill Church, Mennonite Church, just behind us. And then the statutory public meeting, which is also both requirements under the Planning Act. That's June 18th, and we are at 5:45 here in council chambers.
Okay.
So there'll be two. We won't obviously have enough time to put this together for tomorrow's meeting, but we can certainly come back at the statutory public meeting, June the 18th.
With your recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Council Brick.
Just clarifying, is the current, the application for 7 is still included with tomorrow's then? Like the original one?
So what we've done to date is, if we rewind, if you may recall, we put a deadline on anyone asking or interested in submitting a settlement area boundary request. That was last fall. And over the winter, we received those, we evaluated those. Of the ones that we were recommending, we put in the draft, which is now available. Sorry, I'll back up a little bit. Of the 18, there was kind of 3 categories. There was kind of approve in principle, or the ones that we would recommend in principle. The ones that we're not recommending, of which this falls into that category. The original request anyway. And then a third category of, I'll call it the maybe category, in which we needed a little bit more information in order to complete our review from the applicants. So there was a number of those that also were in your, I think those were in your package last meeting. And we fully intend to go over those at the stat public meeting for you, so we can look at each one we're recommending in detail. We'll include this one as well at your direction. And yeah.
Did I see Councillor Herbert's hand up?
Well, it's kind of the same question. Are you able to add the amendment to tomorrow's meeting from 7 lots to 3 lots?
So the materials for tomorrow's meeting have already been prepared. As you can imagine, it takes a little bit of time. We can certainly, so what tomorrow is an open house. So it's not there's no formal presentation. We're at the church for anybody to drop in. We can I don't think we'll have enough time to put all that on some type of board. We can certainly mention that it's been received. We can speak to anybody about it there who comes. I think that's probably the best that we could do at this point in the timing. But certainly the statutory public meeting is a little bit more formal. It'll be here. It'll be in front of you guys. It'll be, presumably we'll be live streaming it as well, Amy, I'm guessing. So I think that's an appropriate time to bring that back, I would think. It gives us enough time to do that.
Okay. And that's the statutory, and then we looking to finalize the plan in July 7th or?
Yeah, I think the tentative date to bring it forward to you for adoption is our last meeting before the summer break, which is July the 7th. Yeah, that's the plan. We're still on track. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Oh. Okay. Okay, well, thank you to the delegations. And we'll move forward. So now we'll need a motion that the committee, the whole meeting adjourned to hold a public meeting with respect to zoning bylaw amendment 01-26. Could I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Seven, second by Councillor Wagner, all in favor? And that's carried. Would the clerk please advise the method of advertising?
Notice of this public meeting was posted on the subject lands and on the township website.
Okay. Any person who wants further notice of the passage of the bylaw should give in writing their full name, address, and postal code to the clerk prior to leaving the meeting. And I'll ask Senior Planner Bobby Cesara, got that right. Bring forward the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. I will be presenting tonight on zoning bylaw amendment application 01-26 for 7191 Road 116. Next slide, please. So this zoning bylaw amendment application is to amend section 4.28 of the zoning bylaw, which requires the owner of the property or of the on-farm diversified use to reside on site. The applicant is requesting that the use is operated by the non-resident owner. In terms of the subject lands, the property is located at the southeast corner of Road 116 and Schumer Line. The lands contain a church, a mobile home, a pig barn, and a cash crop. The applicant currently owns and resides at 6371 Schumer Line, which is just to the north of the subject lands. And the applicant currently operates an on-farm diversified use on that property. They are proposing to establish an on-farm diversified use on the subject lands to warehouse materials for that existing on-farm diversified use. Next slide, please. So under the Planning Act in Ontario, planning decisions are required to be consistent with the provincial planning statement. So under the PPS, OFDUs are a permitted use in prime agricultural areas. However, they're subject to provincial guidelines. And those guidelines are shown on the screen there. These guidelines offer they offer municipalities a way to evaluate what can and can't be done on prime agricultural lands. And they offer guidance in terms of the use for on-farm diversified uses, as well as the size, scale, and intensity. There is no guideline in the provincial guidelines that relate to the owner residing on site. And given the size of the proposed OFDU, staff are of the opinion that the proposal is consistent with the PPS. Next slide, please. So in terms of our township official plan, the subject lands are designated as prime agricultural. The uses that are permitted in prime agricultural areas are agricultural related, and secondary uses. OFDUs are considered secondary uses, and they're further regulated in section 4.28 of the zoning bylaw. Next slide, please. So these are some of the key provisions and regulations that are in section 4.28, which regulates on-farm diversified uses. The first one there is what's being proposed to be amended, which is the use shall be conducted only by the owner of the farm property who resides on site. The next two relate to the size and scale of the OFDU. The first one there, D, requires that any building, landscaped area, parking, storage, anything related to the use has to be within 2% of the property to a maximum of 1 hectare. In the case of this property, the land area eligible for an OFDU maxes out to that 1 hectare mark. The next provision under section E relates to just the buildings and structures related to the OFDU, in which the floor area of the building cannot exceed 20% of the aforementioned 2% to a maximum of 1,200 meters squared. And again, this one, because of the size of the property, they're able to max out that size requirement at 1,200 meters squared. However, the applicant is proposing a warehouse building that is 557 meters squared, which falls within the permitted size requirements. Next slide, please. So in reviewing this application, we took a look at what other municipalities do across Ontario. We primarily looked at municipalities that are rural in nature and most of them contain prime agricultural land. So in the green, you'll see municipalities that require OFDUs to reside on site. The owners of and operators of OFDUs to reside on site, whereas the yellow do not require them to reside on site. And in our review of those 17 municipalities, 11 did not have any requirement for the owner to reside on site. Through our review, we also took a look at how the language of different municipalities and what they permit in terms of residency requirements. And staff were comfortable with the way Woolwich had approached theirs, which is that the OFDU can be operated by the owner of the property who still farms the property. And as staff, we think this strikes a good balance between allowing a little bit more flexibility while also ensuring that the lands remain valued for their agricultural production rather than their commercial or manufacturing potential. Next slide, please. So we circulated this application to the required review agencies. We did not receive any objections. Additionally, we circulated the application and discussed with Ministry of Agriculture, as well as the Ontario Federation of Agriculture. And we did not receive any objections from either of those. Next slide, please. So this brings me to the staff recommendation that the Council of the Township of Wellesley adopt zoning bylaw amendment for file ZBA 01-26 at 7191 Road 116 to permit the following site-specific exception: to permit an on-farm diversified use that is operated by the non-resident owner who farms the property, whereas section 4.28A of the zoning bylaw requires the farm owner to reside on site. Thank you.
Okay. So council cannot take a position on the proposed bylaw during the course of this public meeting. Are there any questions from council? Councillor Herget?
Just to clarify, the on-farm diversified use is operated by the non-resident owner who farms the property. So the applicant is actually renting the land and farming it?
No.
So the proposed recommended bylaw would require the owner to the owner of the land to actively farm the land. However, they would be able to establish the on-farm diversified use and operate it.
The owner owns both properties.
The owner owns both properties.
Oh, okay. So he owns both properties.
Yeah.
I missed that part.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions? Councillor Wagner?
You said at 7191, the property contains a school. And I think you said a mobile trailer. So is the school active?
So there's an institutional use on the northern portion of the property, which is a place of worship. And there's a mobile home on site, which I believe is currently rented out.
And was there anything else on the property?
There's a barn, a pig barn, and a storage shed.
So we already have a school or a place of worship, a mobile trailer, a pig barn, a shed. And now he's asking to, or they are asking to have another building on there that they're going to use, but they don't actually live on the property.
That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? But they do own the property. I think that's the criteria. Any other questions? Oh, okay, thank you. Would the applicant like to make some comments at this point? Yes, are you the applicant? Okay. Yeah, okay.
Presentation. Unfortunately, it's going to be a bit of a repeat of what Bobby did, but yeah, hoping to offer a bit of clarification. Great, thank you. So my name is my name is Stephanie Lacey Yvonne, and I'm a senior planner working for MHBC Planning, and I'm here representing the applicant today. Next slide, please. So the applicant is looking to establish an on-farm diversified use. I'll refer it to as an OFDU from now on. on the subject property outlined on the map as shown. So this OFDU would be to serve for storage purposes only, storing aluminum farm gates and trailers. No manufacturing is proposed. An amendment to the township zoning bylaw provision, specifically section 4.28A, where requires an OFDU to be conducted only by the owner of the farm property who lives on site. In this case, the applicant owns the property, but this is not where his primary residence is located. The amendment would be to allow the non-resident owner of a farm property to establish and operate an OFDU on the subject lands. This amendment reflects the needs of modern day farming, where there are many different farm ownership models, and it supports farm viability and economic diversification. In this case, it focuses regulation on land use impacts rather than personal circumstances. Next slide, please. So to offer a bit more context, the applicant lives at 6371 Schumer Line, which is situated immediately north of the subject lands. On that property, the applicant owns and operates an OFDU manufacturing aluminum farm gates and trailers. East of the subject lands are agricultural lands and farm residential properties. South is the Kissing Bridge Rail Trail and agricultural lands, and west is agricultural lands in the hamlet of Millbank. Slide, please. The subject lands are farm-sized, being greater than 40 hectares. There's a residential trailer on the property, an old shed used to house 2 horses, 1,000 head pig barn, cash crops, and a church on site. The lands are designated prime agricultural area and zoned general agricultural. There's a Grand River Conservation Authority regulated watercourse on the south side of the property. Next slide. Here gives you a bit of a sense of the extent and scale of what's being proposed before us today. The proposal is the warehouse on the map shown. That's the size of what's being proposed. It would be a 557 square meter storage shed. Based on comments received from Township Building Department, it does appear a septic system will be required and a barrier-free washroom facility, and this can be accommodated. This storage shed will be storing supplies from an existing OFDU located at 6371 Schumer Line, which is the applicant's primary residence. Next slide, please. When reviewing provincial planning policy and provincial agricultural use guidelines, OFDUs are permitted in prime agricultural areas and required to meet several conditions. An OFDU has to be located on a farm property, in which case this proposal meets that condition. The property must be actively farmed. In this case, there's a 1,000 head pig barn and cash crops. This OFDU will remain secondary to the principal agricultural use of the property. It's required to be limited in area. So this use represents only 0.11% of the subject lands, well within the 0.4%. It's required to be required to produce value-added agricultural products. In this case, this proposal will be to store materials and manufactured aluminum farm gates and trailers that are used for farm properties in the surrounding area. And it must be compatible with and not hinder surrounding agricultural operations. So compatibility is typically measured through a formula called minimum distance separation, and this proposal meets the setback requirements. As well, the aesthetic of the building will be steel framed and designed to look like an agricultural rural building. So as demonstrated, this use meets all of the conditions required to operate an OFDU at the provincial level. It's important to note that the provincial policy focuses on the use rather than the identity of the user. There are no requirements in the provincial planning statement or provincial agricultural use guidelines for the owner or operator of an OFDU to reside on site. OFDUs are permitted in the Region of Waterloo official plan in prime agricultural areas. The Township of Wellesley official plan permits secondary uses in prime agricultural areas. And this proposed OFDU is considered a secondary use. A septic and washroom facility will be required based on comments received from the township's building department, and that can be accommodated. There were no concerns from GRCA, and the OFDU will use the existing laneway for access purposes. Next slide, please. OFDUs are permitted in the A1 General Agricultural Zone under the Township zoning bylaw. They are required to be limited in size. The warehouse meets the size criteria of the zoning bylaw. And as noted previously, an amendment is required to a section 4.28A of the zoning bylaw that would permit a non-resident owner to establish and operate an OFDU on the subject lands. The subject lands will continue to operate as agricultural lands, and the proposal is subject to site plan control. So through site plan control, there's other compatibility provisions that could be ensured, such as ensuring limiting gross floor area, lot coverage, parking standards, noise limits, lighting, and hours of operation. So in summary, this proposal is consistent with the provincial planning statement and guidelines on permitted uses in Ontario's agricultural areas and conforms with both official plans. The proposed amendment maintains the general intent of the zoning bylaw. There are no environmental concerns, and it complies with the minimum distance separation. This proposal also reflects the needs of modern day farming, where there are many different farm ownership models. It supports farm viability and economic diversification, focuses regulation on land use impacts rather than personal circumstances, encourages efficient use of existing farm infrastructure, and supports succession farm transitions. Our recommendation is that the zoning bylaw amendment be supported as it is appropriate and represents good planning.
Thank you very much for your comments.
I have to take questions.
Are there any persons who, or are there any questions to the delegate? Move forward, I think. Are there any persons who wish to make oral or written submissions in opposition to the proposed bylaw? If so, would they please give their names, address, and postal code to the clerk? Anyone here in opposition to the proposed bylaw? Seeing none. Are there any persons who wish to make oral or written submissions in support of the proposed bylaw other than the applicant? Give name, address, and postal code to the clerk. Anybody here in support of the applicant? Seeing none. Now I need a motion that the public meeting regarding zoning bylaw amendment 0126 7191 Road 116 does now adjourn and the council committee of the whole meeting resume. Moved by Councillor Brick, second by Councillor Herget. All in favor, and that's carried. So we'll move to recreation. Councillor White, this will be dealt with shortly. Okay. Councillor Wagner.
Thank you. Recreation Advisory Committee. We don't really have anything, but we did actually have our first meeting last night. So hopefully we have another meeting in June 22nd. And hopefully I have something to bring forward then, some recommendations and whatnot. So there are no staff reports and I don't have a director right now. So our
I'll just tag in for a second. Yeah, our director of recreation has left the township for another opportunity with another municipality. However, we did welcome aboard yesterday Wanda Schaefer as an interim manager of recreation. So she will be filling the role of director in an interim capacity until we can refill that position full time.
Questions?
Go ahead.
The ball diamond lights in St. Clements have not been working lately. Rumor is that there've been contractors working around there. Is there something going on that?
Yeah, this was in the 2026 capital budget that some rewiring had to be done for those ball diamond lights. It was the underground cabling. Some of it has rotted out and needs to be replaced. So that work is ongoing as far as I'm aware and will be completed this summer.
Okay.
I don't have a completion date for you though.
Okay. Because last night there was 3 sets of lights out. So not sure how they're finding it to play in the outfield, but
I'll relay that message to the staff.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions for Rick? Okay, then that's it for me.
Move on, planning and development, Councillor Brick.
Thank you, Mayor Nowak. P&D 6/2026 zoning bylaw amendment application 01/26. I need a motion that the council of the Township of Wellesley adopt the zoning bylaw amendment for file ZBA 01/26 at 7191 Road 116 to permit the following site-specific exception. Permit an on-farm diversified use as operated by the non-resident owner who farms the property, whereas section 4.28A of the zoning bylaw requires the farm owner reside on site. May I have a mover? Councillor Herget, seconder, Councillor Seven. I don't believe staff anything more to bring forward on this.
I don't think so. Councillor, happy to take any questions.
Any questions of staff? Councillor Wagner?
Just a quick question. So 6371 is the property where the actual operation is located at. So why is the warehousing of the product not being done on the property, or why can it not be done on 6371?
Through the chair. So the current where the current existing OFDU exists, the farm is essentially maxed out. They cannot build anything larger just given the size of the farm. So their OFDU size is maxed out given our zoning bylaw requirements for size.
And how long has the operation been existing and working on the farm?
In terms of the length of time, I'm not sure the exact date of when this OFDU started operation. Not sure if the applicant would know.
Just up front, but
We can find that out shortly.
Please.
is there any other questions for staff in the meantime? Councillor Herget?
if a family member would be living on the property, would this be an issue or would it be the same?
If the family member was a owner of the OFDU business, then it would not be an issue. So, and if the family member was living on the site and owned part of the business, then it would be as of right under our zoning bylaw.
Hi. Original shop was built in 2008, and they built a new one in 2022, the bigger one.
So in 2022, they didn't plan for the amount of product that they would be housing?
I mean, I guess not. I mean, it's difficult. I mean, they could answer that better than I can. What we find is that depending on, in our experience, when we get these shops that come in, they build them at a certain size, and if business is good, they need more space often. So we do get a significant number of applications for enlargement or extension. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's uncharacteristic. We're getting probably a few expansions now that slight downturn from last year, but the applications are back. So I don't think that's doesn't seem uncommon or bizarre to us at this moment.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks.
Any further questions?
I think I really don't have a problem with this. I think it's a reasonable request. There's no way that they can merge the farms together, the two farms to one property.
No, they can't because it's separated by a public road. So you wouldn't be able to. Yeah, there's an intervening land use or an intervening owner, which is us. I guess I would say this: like we certainly recognize, like we see these applications for site plan all the time. And normally you wouldn't see this. We wouldn't be coming to you with this, right? But obviously when it becomes a question of ownership, I think we certainly have talked about this in the past at this table. And our understanding is that one of the things that council and staff that are concerned about is that these shops just don't become a de facto industrial park across the landscape, in which owners are building shops and renting them out to other people that will be owning or operating them. And so we feel in this case, the way that we've written the bylaw, I think prevents that from happening. And we've discussed that with OMAFA and the OFA, and they both agree with us. Like we wouldn't normally call OMAFA or the Ontario Federation of Agriculture on something like this unless we thought it was important. Also, we learned a little bit more about how Woolwich developed their wording around it. And it still, in our opinion, is going to prevent the situation that we've been told by council is worrisome, right? Which is somebody owns a farm and rents out the shop to somebody else, right? That still would be prevented in this case. Still has to be operated by the owner. The owner still has to farm the land. He just doesn't happen to live there. And there's not a whole lot of support at the provincial level for our continued policy on you have to reside on site in order to operate the shop. So in our case, we think we've kind of met the middle road here. We're protecting the township from having a number of rental shops across the township, where but we're also allowing some of these evolving family farms to continue to operate and have a shop on their farm.
Any further question or comment?
No, my comment, I'm fully supportive. I mean, I don't see it as a major issue. It's a family operation and it's going to stay in the family. And to me, it's quite reasonable. So.
Right, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? That's carried. We'll turn it over to the director for an update.
Thank you, Councilor Brick. Just making some notes there. Just a couple updates for you tonight. Significant amount of staff time is being spent on essentially two major projects right now. The first is the official plan update. As you know, we attended a successful public engagement session on May the 13th. We appreciate the mayor coming to that evening. It was at the Crossville Mennonite Church. We received a lot of positive comments on the draft official plan. Probably more positive comments than I've ever been a part of at a public meeting on a planning issue. So we were pleased by that, and we appreciate the hard work that that Nethery Planning has been doing on that on our behalf. We've also been following up and working through technical comments that we've received from the region, from WMAFA, from the GRCA. Those are pages and pages of comments that sometimes need meetings and clarifications in order to get understanding of the policy language right. So that takes a little bit of time. Looking ahead, I spoke earlier tonight about the open house, statutory public open house tomorrow night, and our statutory public meeting, which is June 18th. So we'll see you all back here then. And we're still on track and advancing the OP towards council consideration in early July, as I had mentioned. The second fairly significant project is the old arena lands concepts that we've been taking out on the road. We attended, again, 2 successful public engagement sessions in Wellesley, May 19th, and one in St. Clements on May the 21st. I appreciate all of you that came in attendance to one or both of them. It was really good to see you there, and I think our numbers are close to 90 people that we received at both, combined at both events. Certainly we're receiving a lot of variety of feedback, as you can imagine, on the concepts, and which is welcome and appreciated. And we'll be summarizing that to bring back at a future date of council for you all to have a look at. And we have not yet set a date for a deadline for public feedback. We're leaving that open for now. We're communicating on social media. I think there's no rush to close it, or I think we'll maybe leave it up for kind of watch the comments coming in, and as it starts to dissipate a little bit, we might put out some notices to people, and just to remind them if you have any feedback, and then we'll pick a deadline that's reasonable, probably over the next month or so. And that's all I have for tonight, unless there's any questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, concludes planning development.
Okay, we'll move to Road and Bridge. Councillor Herget.
Thank you, Mayor Nowak. We start with staff report. We have a presentation from John McGill and Brandon Quigley, CIMA Plus, regarding the Transportation Mobility Master Plan.
Thank you, Councillor Herget. So this report is about a year in the making now, having started around June 2025. Plans intended to provide some strategic direction for public works department specifically, but will have a broader reach, influencing some decision making in planning and recreation and other departments as well. So John McGill and Brandon Quigley are here from CIMA Plus to present the final report to you. They were the project leads from the consultant side, with Jake and I involved from the staff side. So without further ado, turn it over to John and Brandon.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is John McGill. I was the project manager on behalf of CIMA Plus. I'm here tonight with my deputy project manager, Brandon Quigley, and we'll walk you through some highlights of the project. Next slide, please. So tonight we're just going to walk you through, I think we've been here before, give you a quick overview of some of the earlier things we did, the vision and goals, and maybe spend some time talking about components and recommendations for you. Ultimately, we're here to get council approval and principle on the work that we've done to date. I sincerely like to thank Chris and Jake, provided township guidance, and without their guidance, we wouldn't have a made in Wellesley product, which I think we really have. And so it was great working with them. I've been in this business a long time, and it was a pleasure working with this team, and certainly provided the local context for us. Next slide. So I won't go into a lot of details here, but there were several steps in the process. We wanted to create a vibrant place to live, some transportation policies for the town to guide the town in future transportation works, facilitate connections between various services, and prioritize active transportation travel, which was clearly something we heard over and over again, and create a capital and operating plan, which Chris and his team will bring forward at the appropriate time for formal approval. Next slide. So I know you've all been participating in this since we started, which was about a year ago in July, when we started with the phase one problems and opportunities, where we started to collect data and create the vision and goals for the overall direction of the plan. It was really fun to participate in the public engagement part because we got to go to the Wellesley Fair, which was really, really a nice event and rather unique for me, who lives in St. Catharines, to participate in such a great event. We did put an online website, and we did put together an online survey and mapping tool as part of that phase one work. Once that was completed, we moved on to phase two, where we started to create some more technical work. We identified and evaluated alternate solutions, the network alternatives, preferred network, and some policy and design guidelines, which will help Chris and his team as we go forward in the future. On the public engagement part of phase two, we did a council workshop, a public information center, and as well the online the tools were still in place. So now we're into phase three. We've developed an implementation strategy in the final report. We've put together the policies, and I think in your packages, you've seen some of those draft final reports. So we're here tonight for council approval. And once we receive that, and we can go to the formal posting of the master plan to complete the formal process to get it in place. So with that introduction, I'm going to turn it over to Brandon to walk us through several aspects of the work we did as part of this project. Next slide too, I think. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, John. As John was saying, through the engagement activities we heard a lot of different opinions and pieces of input, but a few of the themes that came out of that, as John said, one of them was really a desire for enhanced active transportation facilities, as well as support for programs, especially around school and education. We heard a lot about road safety, including some, specific issues throughout the township, and support for some changes and things and issues can be addressed, although also some positive things in terms of existing conditions as well. And then a few other issues that kind of came up a few times through the engagement. Certainly some interest and support for transit, which I'll talk about in more detail. Conditions of roads, certainly some desire around, keeping in mind the rural context and the desire to maintain the small town feel in the township. And there were some concerns as well about truck traffic. So moving to the next slide, we'll talk about sort of how we developed a vision. These slides have gotten a little funky, so don't look at them too hard. Essentially an overall vision to guide the plan that we referred to as we were developing the recommendations and some key goals. I won't read the whole vision, but it was really important, and it really flowed from both the engagement activities as well as reviewing the township's existing plans and policies. So some of the key pieces: safety for everyone, improving health, protecting the environment, preserving our rural character, as we heard from people, providing travel options for all, and while also accommodating some of the growth that's planned in the township as well. And it was a good opportunity to do this plan in coordination with the official plan to kind of make sure those things, that the growth issues were accommodated. So moving on to the next slide then. One of the things we did as part of our analysis was look at some data around mode share, and it was part of sort of our marching orders to do that to help understand how people travel in Wellesley today and what the future might look like. I mean, one of the really, and we had a few sources of data, one being the census, another being the Transportation Tomorrow Survey, which is what the TTS stands for up there, which is a broad travel survey that takes a representative sample of individuals and tries to ask them about a range of trips, not just commuting trips, but school drop-off pickups, other types of trips. And through that, we found something pretty interesting that actually you would think, given the broad distances in Wellesley Township, that there'd be a lot of car and automotive trips, driven trips, and there are, but actually not. It's actually less than Waterloo region as a whole, in part because there are you'll see some of the percentages there. There's a lot of walking trips, probably because people are doing a lot of walking within the small towns. It's one of the advantages to that small town context. It's actually quite a number of cycling trips, a lot of kids on the school bus, a lot of other trips too, like perhaps influenced in part by the Mennonite population in Wellesley. So then from that, we did a little bit of extrapolating into future scenarios, looking at what Waterloo region's targets were. So if we kind of look into the future and if we can shift just a fairly modest number of those trips to other modes, and especially with transit service anticipated and planned by the region to come to Wellesley Township, probably not representing a big percentage of trips, but again, all of those other modes sort of working together to provide different means of travel. And there are, as you can see, a lot of people today traveling by a variety of modes. So one of the goals is to continue sort of that shift, which it looks like, at least based on recent trends, have already begun, although we've had some interesting years in terms of travel. Some of that 2022 data does need to be taken with a grain of salt. But we did go through this exercise with the township to kind of look at where the township is based on the most recent numbers and look at where they're going tomorrow. And if we go to the next slide, we did that in a few different things. The other way we did that was did a road and traffic analysis, looking at traffic data and doing a modeling exercise, looking at that existing traffic data, considering connectivity and future development, and trying to estimate what that traffic data would look like in the future so that it could help us identify some improvements. In total, we, through that, one of the first steps was to create a long list of potential intersections that were potential for improvement of 17 intersections. And then we narrowed that down based on what the analysis showed us. Did sort of that as part of the overall network, we wanted to make sure it was multimodal. So we also looked at the active transportation network, documented existing conditions, first identified a broad list of candidate routes, then narrowed that down, focused on some facilities, and built that out through to prioritization and phasing. So if we go to the next slide then, here are some of the network improvements that are in the plan. So out of that long list of 17 intersections, based on the traffic analysis, really only 2 were identified for improvements. They happen to both be, we included a mix of township and regional locations in that analysis. Those 2 happen to be regional locations. So that's going to be something the township will do on its own. Will be in coordination. Similarly, we heard support for a truck route bypass, and I understand that staff have already started some of those discussions. Again, that'll require coordination with Waterloo Region if there's any to be able to accommodate such a thing. But certainly we want to, part of the TMMP is recommending moving that forward. And then just advancing, again, Grand River Transit has plans for expanded public transit. So certainly endorsing that, as that's something people want to move forward with that, including both the fixed route and on-demand service that is in the existing plans. So to advance those. The other piece, which was certainly on the next slide, was a key piece of the plan, and in fact the township has a lot of control over, is the active transportation network. So walking, cycling, other modes of self-propelled travel. And through that, we kind of split it, and you really want to provide those differently in rural areas as opposed to urban or the settlement areas of the town, the villages of the township, the villages and hamlets. So from that, we kind of came up with a network of priority projects. So with paved shoulders, some signed bike routes. We had an opportunity for a piece of multi-use trail in the rural area. And then the urban area, some sidewalks, some old multi-use paths, some neighborhood bikeways would be signed bikeways, and then some locations where there could be either new or enhanced pedestrian crossings as well. So if we move to the next slide, I think we've got a bit of a map. We've got a few different maps in the plan itself showing, zooming in on the areas, but this is the township-wide sort of map. So you can see some of those paved shoulder locations, which, and actually on this map, they're called cycling facilities, but we do also highlight in the plan that those also provide some space for horse-drawn vehicles as well. And then some of the other pieces here on this map in terms of some of those priority improvements in the rural areas. You can kind of, as you squint your eyes, you can sort of see some of the urban ones there, but they're a lot easier to see in the plan itself. So if we move on to the next slide then. In addition to the network recommendations, we also developed some supporting strategies and recommendations. In order to build the network, we gave some guidelines around street design, some guidelines around road safety to guide decisions about traffic calming, including not just measures, but how to prioritize and select locations that are most appropriate for them, and some of the unique rural transportation considerations at Wellesley Township. We have a number of programs that are recommended in the plan for staff to pursue, and also a lot of which in coordination with the region, just making sure that those regional programs are coming to the township, and that township staff are working together with the region on those, as well as things that maybe the township could consider on their own. There are some high-level parking considerations. We didn't do a deep dive in terms, there's a lot of work to do and a lot of location-specific issues around parking, but we did look at your existing policies, bylaws, and provided some recommendations about what some next steps can be for the township to make sure that the parking bylaws and other policies are working for you. We've got a bit of a summary up there as well of what those look like. Yep, that's fine. Go to the next slide is good. And then obviously we want this plan to be more than something that sits on a shelf, but something that gets implemented. And that's part of why we really focused on those short-term first 10 years of the plan of those priority networks. Longer term, some of those more policy and planning recommendations are probably going to guide what happens as opportunities arise. Based on those priority projects, we came up with a high-level estimate of those costs, which could change very much, and we'll need some more study, but of approximately $330,000 a year, as well as it would be advisable in order to really do all the things in the plan and do it on the schedule that's recommended, to have the capacity to be able to do that, including staff capacity. And a lot of this funding, certainly the capacity in-house, will require actually both a lot of it will be internal funding. There's also a lot of opportunities through the types of projects that have been selected in the plan for external funding to supplement what's in the plan quite significantly. As well as in the next plan, or I think it's on the next slide. Right, actually, I'll just say, and the staff capacity issue, and also partnerships with external organizations. I've talked about the region a lot, but there's other partners that are going to be important to implement the plan as well. So with that, we're as of I think this meeting or tomorrow, putting up the plan, the full plan on the project website for review. So yeah, I believe the purpose of this is to seek council approval in principle. So that's what I have for you today. It's been a pleasure to work on this plan, and we hope looking forward even more to see the things in the plan come to fruition. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Go ahead.
Oh. Councilor Brick?
Maybe not a specific question right now, but just to, I guess there's a lot of information in the plan, and thanks to your team and staff for preparing it. I think it addresses a number of things that kind of were on my radar across the township, and maybe some things that I wasn't aware of. So obviously there's a lot of different things in there, and it I think does reflect our community and kind of the changes, but also the needs that we have now. So just appreciate the staff's time and the consultants' time on it.
Mayor Nowak?
Yeah, just a question. Did you consult at all, or did you talk with the region with regard to any of their road systems? And the reason I'm asking that is because just recently, I think within the last 3 or 4 months, they came out with a policy with regarding uploading township roads or downloading regional roads, and the process on how that can be done. They've done one on Lucky Doodle's Corners, I think, and then so now they have a plan in place to address that. I think the criteria is that either way, the roads have to be in perfect condition before that movement can take place. Are you familiar? Yeah. But that wasn't included in as a possibility.
So no, thank you, Mayor Nowak. That was not part of the purview for this report. There are aspects of it that come into play, like Brandon was talking about the truck bypass for Wellesley Village, for example. In order for that to happen, it would have to be in conjunction with the region. There's a lot of language in this plan that speaks to collaboration between the region and the township for various projects, whether it be active transportation or a truck bypass or other things like that. So there's a lot of collaboration that way. We didn't ask them to get into specifically the criteria for uploading or downloading, as that was more or less, like you alluded to, introduced partway through this plan.
It was only in the last month and a half or two.
Exactly. So it will be it'll be something that staff will look at using this strategic direction that John and Brandon and their team have provided for us.
I'd just like to add that your timing for completing this TMP is excellent, because the region's integrated mobility plan RFP just hit the street. So having an approved transportation mobility master plan now can feed into that process at the region level. And a lot of those recommendations will go to the region to consider as part of that as well. So the timing is good.
No more question? Counselor Seven?
Thanks for that report. It was very interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of those changes as well. I noticed on the one just outside of Linwood, there's a signed bike route. It's an unpaved road. Would there be a change to speed limit there, or changes to the road at all?
So there are quite a few. I'm not sure about that specific location, but there are quite a few recommendations. Within the plan, there's some recommendations as far as on-road cycling facilities, off-road cycling facilities, potentially opening currently closed. There's a section of Lichty Road that's closed to the public for motorized vehicles, and opening that as a off-road unmaintained bike facility or cycling facility or trail, whatever you want to call it. So that is one of the recommendations that's within the plan. So yeah, all of those kind of things are certainly considered, and their team did a really good job looking at all those avenues.
Great, thank you.
I just had a couple questions. So there's quite a bit of talk in there about paving the shoulders, making the road wider, Weimer and Depper Glacier. I drove down the other day, and you're recommending a minimum width of 1.2 meters, and it's hardly half a meter of shoulder there. So what do you think, like, what's your reasoning, or how do you think it's going to be safer just adding that little bit on each side?
Well, as with all the recommendations, they'll have to be looked at a little bit closer. We're kind of looking, one of the things we looked at was the entire width of the road. So it's sort of a recommended width. It might be possible to narrow sort of the paved traveled portion of the roadway. It is pretty tight on pretty much all of your roads. But based on sort of aerial images and some site visits, we think there's a good chance you can squeeze them in there. Again, it kind of has to go to the next step in terms of feasibility to make them 1.2. Maybe it ends up not being that's sort of your width in terms of to make it a cycling facility in terms of guidance. yeah, more work will have to be done as for a lot of these recommendations to confirm whether that can be done. But we had enough information to say, well, it looks like there might be just enough room there to do it. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Another question, the parochial schools, you talked about changing the speeds, and was it for the entire road or just 150 meters maybe on both sides?
So that was part of the speed analysis report that was done last year by a company that's actually part of Senior Plus now. So that report that was provided there in I think it was 2024 that we actually did that. They John and Brandon and their group took that report into consideration. In the school zones, the recommendation was to lower the speed limit by 20 kilometers an hour. And on gravel roads was to lower it to 70. So if we do decide to implement those things, it would be 70 kilometers an hour on gravel roads, and then that would make the school zones 50 kilometers. So it would be the 150 meters either side of the school zone.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure when I read it. It didn't quite. I kind of read both, so I wasn't sure. Okay, that's all I have.
Property and Fire, Councillor Seban.
Oh, I have one more here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just have to go back on the right page here. Okay, moving on to R&B 7, 2026, Transportation Mobility Master Plan. Motion required. The recommendation that the Council of the Township of Wellesley adopt the Transportation and Mobility Master Plan as presented. Can I get a mover? Councilor Brick, seconded by Councilor Wagner. Any discussion? I just have one question. Adopting it as presented, we're just receiving it for information, or?
No, you'll be adopting the plan as presented.
Okay, so implementing the plan, or?
Does Chris want to speak to the implementation?
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Councilor Herget. I was going to mention this when introducing the report briefly. So there are a lot of recommendations that are housed within the plan, some short-term, some long-term, some funded by the operating budget, some funded by capital. The approval here tonight that we're seeking, we say approval in principle because this is a committee of the whole meeting, so it'll be approved finally at the next meeting in a couple weeks from now. By approving it tonight, you're not endorsing each specific project that's identified within. Those will come up one by one in future capital budgets for approval. There'll be future engineering, as Brandon alluded to, on some of these. So it's more general, it's more strategic in nature. All of these projects, larger projects, will be approved one by one in the capital budget. There are some project of a minor nature, such as signage and different things like that, that are recommended that we will implement through the operating budget, that essentially you are agreeing to or approving in principle here tonight for those operating funded ones, because we won't come back to council for those specifically. But the larger trails and paving projects and things like that, they will all come here individually.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Director update.
Thank you, Councilor Herget. Yes, I do have a update here today. So the REAP tree planting initiative is now complete in the Township of Wellesley. It's moved on to Wilmot. We had a nice event at the new recreation complex to kick it off, I guess, after it was complete, but it went really well. The bridge number 1 on Road 116 rehabilitation, that construction started a couple weeks ago, and it's going very well as well. Maintenance gravel, the large maintenance gravel project that we do on an annual basis, started yesterday. It's going as expected. Dust suppressant application has been going on for a couple of weeks and will be done in conjunction with the graveling operation. Several other construction projects are being planned and organized at the moment. We had a site meeting with the contractor for the new large culvert project on Moser Young that we're going to be doing. So there's a lot of those kind of construction projects that are getting underway in the township. And our internal staff are working on summer maintenance such as ditching and culvert replacements this time of year. So we're in full summer construction mode now. Our final project tender just closed last week, and you'll see a report for that next meeting to award the contractor there. We're just reviewing bids and things like that still.
Hey, thank you. Any questions for the director? Okay, that's it.
Property and fire.
Looks like I got it off easy tonight. No staff reports and no director, unless Rick has anything.
No, Chief Redmond indicated that he has no update for tonight.
Okay, then we'll move to admin and finance. And report AF&P 24-2026 Accessible Advisory Committee, and there's a motion required. The recommendation that the Council of the Township of Wellesley receive report AF&P 24-2026, and further that the council approve participation in the newly established City of Kitchener Accessibility Advisory Committee as an affiliated municipality under the terms of reference commencing the new term of council November 15th, 2026. And further, the council repeal the Grand River Accessibility Advisory Committee terms of reference. And further, the council directs staff to notify the Grand River Accessibility Advisory Committee, GRAC, of the township's intentions to pursue an affiliated municipality status with the City of Kitchener effective November 15th, 2026. Could I have a mover for that, please? Councillor Brick, second by Councillor Herget, and I believe our clerk is going to bring this forward.
Thank you, Mayor Nowak. So I just have a couple items to reference from the report specifically. So the Grand River Accessibility Advisory Committee, as we know it currently, will cease to exist come October 2026, as the City of Kitchener has adopted a new terms of reference for an Accessibility Advisory Committee. The 4 townships will be bringing a similar report to their council. North Dumfries has already brought their report forward with support from their council. The new terms of reference outlined by the City of Kitchener does allow for affiliated municipalities, which would need to meet specific criteria within the terms of reference, which the Township of Wellesley would meet. So the recommendation is to move towards joining the City of Kitchener and currently the Township of North Dumfries as an affiliated municipality on their City of Kitchener Accessibility Advisory Committee. I could take any questions.
Questions? Questions at all? Okay, then we'll call the question. All in favor? And that is carried. And we do have a director's update, I believe.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yeah, short update for tonight. In the last 2 weeks, there has been significant focus on advancing the township's 2025 year-end audit and associated reporting. This has involved continued coordination with our external auditors on draft financial statements and audit findings, performing an internal review of draft financial statements, which we've just completed. And furthermore, the audit team has accepted, so MNP has accepted our invitation to present their findings to council on June 9th. So 2 weeks tonight, MNP is going to be on site here speaking to all of us. Staff have also finalized and submitted the 2025 FIR, which is the Financial Information Return. And this is the annual report every municipality must submit to the province, and it consolidates financial and statistical information. So that was filed today, a few days before the deadline. And I'd like to report to you that this will be the final council meeting with questionable Wi-Fi. So fiber is being installed on Thursday, which should improve the connectivity issues we've been experiencing here in chambers. So I'm happy to take any questions. If there aren't any, Amy has a quick update too for the clerk's office.
Thanks, Jeff. Just a couple items to update from the clerk's department. So the Township of Wellesley Backyard Barbecue planning is well underway, with that event taking place on Friday, June 19th, starting at 5 p.m. at the Township of Wellesley Recreation Complex. So similar to previous years, we'll have food for purchase, kids activities, the community forum, and concluding with fireworks. And Julianne has done a great job in planning that for this year. One more update, the 2026 municipal election nomination period is open. This period closes on Friday, August 21st at 2 p.m. To submit nomination papers to run for municipal council.
Any questions? No, we're good. No information package, no issues there. Unfinished business, anyone? The next meeting is June 9th, 2026 at 6:45. Special council meeting, statutory public meeting, June 18th, 2026, 5:45. Committee of the whole, June 23rd, 2026 at 5:45. A recommendation to adjourn, Councillor Wagner, all in favor, and that's